All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. We are popping into the group very quickly for a little bit of an impromptu conversation about the upcoming Build It Live event. I'm going to mute my Facebook so that I don't create feedback. You got to love technology that works exactly the way it's supposed to, but it's always up to the users to make it work correctly. So I am joined by Matt Solomon, and we are going to start by talking about the elephant in the room because Matt has on a Channel Halo shirt, but we're also talking about the Build It Live event. And so I want to start there. Like, what in the world is going on in your life and in business? And like, who are you? So let's start there.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. For those in the group who have known me, I was vice president of business development at ID Agent. I was the first employee outside of the CEO. So helped work with them for many years, and then through acquisition under Kaseya, and I took on a larger role there. Also doing business development, being kind of that chief evangelist on the road, and decided to take a leap of faith after about 2.5 years at Kaseya back in June, and started Channel Halo, and it's a consulting company working with vendors and MSPs, with go-to-market strategies, social selling, and really trying to give back to the community as I've always tried to do, and finding out, and I think this will parlay us into the the conversation. What I think my services should be isn't necessarily what other people have different things in mind, and brand ambassador wasn't necessarily something I put on my bullet point list, but IT by Design, Cam and Sunny reached out to me and came up with this idea of being a brand ambassador for their event. And I happen to love their event, so it really worked out very well. And we'll go into some of the reasons why I like their event and love it. But yeah, that's where I am today, and just enjoying to be vendor agnostic.
It's so amazing. When you said 2.5 years at Kaseya, it's always interesting as the outsider looking in. I could have sworn that acquisition only happened 6 months ago. So it's so interesting. Okay, so brand ambassador, kind of a creative idea that Cam and Sunny came up with to leverage your expertise and help get the word out about this event. You said you agreed to it because you loved the event. So I'm assuming you went to the first event a couple of years ago. Tell us what makes this event different and why you love it so much.
Yeah, so the first thing that stands out is there's no vendor pitches. And so what they've done is they've made vendors create workshops. And so I think there's about 44 different workshops that are being done this year. And what it does, I can speak from the vendor perspective because I was a sponsor as ID Agent originally, and I realized, oh man, we can't go with our normal talk track to this because it's not going to make any sense for a workshop. And so what it does is it forces each vendor to really come up with a unique workshop that they've really never done. I mean, that's the ask. It's like, hey, not just come up with a workshop, do one that you've not done before.
Yes.
And so that by itself is extremely unique, because we all, not everybody obviously goes to a bunch of events, but over the years you see similar people going to various events. And of course, as vendors, we have a general talk track for the year. Now it evolves as things change in the industry and whatnot, but it's still a very common thread. But this, again, it forces people out of their talk tracks. Even see some vendors really taking a chance and going with a completely different topic. Like they've kind of embraced this idea of, what, we're not pitching. So why don't we talk about, maybe there's a CEO of a vendor that really is good at M&A, but they happen to be a backup company, but they're going there with we're just going to be a thought leader. And, I think naturally, if you do a good job of presenting, people will ask you, they'll come up to you after, they'll come to your booth and ask you the questions that you need, from a vendor perspective. So
right, it's that law of reciprocity, right? Kind of, okay, you just added value to my world. Now I feel somewhat socially obligated to find out a little bit about your offering, and I might actually be interested in it. So
that's
love the approach. I mean, there's so many shows out there that we've all been to, and they're just a pitch fest. And yes, there's usually a few nuggets woven in, but I have a feeling that the sessions are going to provide a ton of value value. And then does every session have like a template or a worksheet or something to go with it?
Yeah, yeah. And so that I'm glad you mentioned, because so that's one of the other really cool things. And I've said this on several videos now. So there you get, everybody gets this workshop, this booklet. I actually, when I was visiting Cam and Sunny, I just happened to be up in New Jersey at the time, and I said, I thought they just printed this for themselves, like as like a, their own little 2019 one. No, they're like, no, they give that to everybody. And so every person gets every workshop. So you're obviously not going to be able to attend all 44 workshops yourself. So hopefully you bring another person from your company who can go through other tracks. But regardless, you'll get all of them physically. And I'll talk about the advantages of that. You also get it electronically. So, and they're editable. So, think about, and Jennifer, this as a business owner, and I'm learning this right now, is, man, coming up with templates for different things. It's much better not to reinvent the wheel, and at least start at 80% of the way, and then do the rest, make it unique to yourself. But for me, what I like about this is that I need this for when I'm learning in a workshop. I actually need to be able to write stuff down. And so that's what I think is really important. We're kind of hitting all ways to educate somebody, because we're all different. We all take it and learn it differently.
And statistically, if all you do is listen, you absorb a lot less than if you listen and you're filling in the blanks, or you're, highlighting as you go. And then it is something to refer back to later on. I always used to bring little Post-it flags. And so I would have a color coded system for like action item, do this immediately, versus action item, this sounds great, but it's on my someday list. I do have a someday list that I just add, like, hey, maybe someday this would be great when I'm 3 times as big, or I have a different division. And so I love the fact that there is that physical, tangible takeaway that makes it's interesting to me now as a vendor, kind of the outside looking in, the vendors coming in, paying to attend the show, devoting significant time and resources, because you're 100% right. Creating content, custom content, it's not the same as, let's just rearrange a couple of slides and change our languaging slightly because now we're in Atlanta instead of Washington, D.C. Like
Right.
shifting things a little bit. Massive, complete new content that you're not getting anywhere else. It's brand new. So I love it. And then creating the template on top of it. So great stuff. That means that these vendors are not throwing this together on the airplane on the way to the event. It happens way more often than you would probably believe.
Yeah, no way. And I actually spoke with one of the vendors that's attending, and he said, I think this is going to take us between 10 and 20 hours to develop this workshop. And I was like, that was just like, wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the point, right? Is that they're having to invest, they're investing real resources into it. And, having that, like I said, you talked about writing down the notes. It's nice because you know where those notes are. And because it's funny, I was just looking at my desk, and this is I have all these notes it's like, it's not organized at all, but
not showing you my desk, not happening.
So having that organization is important. And one area with the workshops that comes up, our question that comes up, so I want to make sure I address it, is what are the different areas that we're covering in the workshops, or the vendors are. So there's really 9 categories. So it's culture, finance, human resources, leadership, and leadership is kind of an all-encompassing thing of this event. Marketing and sales as 2 different categories, because I know a lot of times they're lumped together. Security, service/customer experience, and strategy. So it really hits really all different, areas for an MSP. And that's why I would say, like, it's definitely really cool if you can bring, a sales and marketing person that might get a lot of value out of that talk track, or somebody from leadership. So there's definitely multiple people that could attend this event.
Love it. Okay, so we've talked about what makes it different. Let me get a little bit more personal. What's the one thing that you are the most excited about?
So this is tough because there's two things that I'm like very excited about. So whatever, I'm just going to take both of them. I'm going to say both of them. The first thing that stood out to me was Gary Vaynerchuk, who's the keynote speaker.
Gary V.
Yeah, Gary V. So I a lot of people know him. Not everybody though. But he's kind of the king of social media. He's really reinvented the space, and as somebody for myself who's I try to in our industry try to be out there on social media as much as I can. there's always things to learn. And he really talks about that type of stuff, but he's also gets into leadership. And so he's got really some interesting thoughts, and doesn't mean everybody will agree with all of them, but he's a straight shooter. I'd encourage somebody to go listen to, you can pull up a million clips of his because he's posts everything all the time.
Yes.
And it's, yeah, so that's what I was probably most excited about. And I would argue that the cost of the entire event would be worth seeing him in person. And that it's important to note, it's the first time he'll be in person at any MSP event. So that's also unique.
Nice.
And you're seeing him in an intimate setting. I mean, this guy can sell out stadiums. Like, he could literally go to a basketball stadium and have it completely sold out. So to get that experience in a small, intimate environment is going to be very fun. And then the other thing
Hold on one second before you
okay.
I want to tell you one thing that I really appreciate about Gary Vee, that I think our whole industry and you and I can take and apply to ourselves, is that when he gets an idea, he executes blazingly fast. So he actually talks about this time where he had an idea for his wine company, and he had the idea at 8 o'clock, or I think 7 o'clock in the morning. By 8 o'clock, he had tasked his assistant, which I know we don't all have personal assistants. So, maybe we can't quite execute as blazingly fast as he can, but by 8 o'clock, he had his assistant buying a video camera and a microphone from Best Buy. And by 10 o'clock, he was filming the first video for this brand new business that he had just come up with 3 hours ago. So you want to talk about executing fast and going fast and breaking things. He's amazing. So super excited. Okay, so what's number 2? What's the second?
Yeah. Well, and I'll mention, we don't all have personal assistants, but you know what, and this could be a topic for somebody else, virtual assistants has been this has become a very popular topic in the channel recently. So be on another day go into that conversation. Yeah. The other part, so they are renting out the Statue of Liberty Island, and I can't emphasize, I know people might think that's I don't know what people think. That is very unique. I lived in New York for 6 years. I don't even know if you could go on the island at the time, because post 9/11 for a while you couldn't. It's really, to me, it is a once in a lifetime experience to be able to go, one, with friends, right? Like, I generally believe like we're all friends and family at these events.
Yes.
So to go with like all these people who are like-minded, it's going to be fun by itself, but then to have the island completely to ourselves with Lady Liberty, that's just, and have dinner, and it's just going to be so amazing. And again, we're all, we've only a few of us maybe have gotten on the road and gotten to an event, so to kind of have this be the first event for a lot of people to be in person, it's just, it's going to be fun.
I agree. That's actually the thing that I'm looking forward to. I mean, I love seeing the MSPs. I love talking to the vendors, love hearing what's going on, sales, marketing, cybersecurity, leadership, content. Great. That's awesome. Super excited about that. But man, like sitting at the feet of Lady Liberty, like that's just amazing. And I think so many people have never even visited, let alone be able to see it privately, like you said, with a small group of colleagues and friends. So
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of show strategy, but not from the vendor side, like you and I are used to thinking. If you were an MSP and you were walking into this show, what would your approach be? What would you recommend?
So probably one of the first things I would do is I would look at the different, topic areas for the workshops. I mean, obviously the main stage stuff, you're going to be at those anyways. I would look to come up with a strategy of which items you want to hit, like from the workshops, not necessarily looking, maybe you don't even look at who the vendor is, because some of this is not going to matter who the vendor is per se. Maybe the speaker might matter more to you in that case. But really the topic areas I think are going to be crucial. And I know I think at the end of this week, they'll really come up with the agenda in terms of like when each breakout is on the website. But that would be probably one of the first things I did, is looking at those things. I don't know. I mean, and I have some other ideas, but I want you to give you some time to chime in as well.
Yeah, for sure. So anytime I went to an event as an MSP, I went with a couple of things in mind. I always knew what my biggest business challenge was right now, that if I could get insight and direction on that one problem, and I know there's never one problem, but there is always one the biggest stumbling block that is in your way. And if you go and you, number one, you know what that is, which sometimes takes some thought and some investigation and some go for a walk your dog, like, but know what that one problem is and go saying, if I can get an answer to this one question, then this will be worth my time, worth my effort, my energy, my expense. So I always did that. And then the second thing I did is kind of 3 big questions. So separate from the big business issue that I was wanting to solve, getting clarity on 3 questions, like how should I adjust my social media strategy, or what are some tips to make my website better, or how do I become a better leader for my team? Those may be completely separate from your biggest business challenge, but they're the questions that are just nagging at you and itching at you that you probably could get really good answers to if you had 2 hours to do searches online or reach out to peers. And so what I always tried to make sure is that I was not on the airplane flying home when I said, oh, I should have asked Matt Solomon this, because yes, I can reach out to Matt on LinkedIn, we can get on a call, etc. But man, we're breaking bread together. We're seeing each other for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the show floor, in the hallways. And so being able to say, hey, Matt, I have a question. You ran a team. What was the best way to fill in the blank? And so by doing that, I had a really good show strategy that I was in charge of, separate from the content that I really didn't get to control. So even if the content crash and burn, which it is not going to for this event, but for some events it has, then I at least knew that I had created success for myself. So if you take both of those tips at this event, like, hey, the content's going to be phenomenal, the speakers are going to be great, the thought leadership is there, Gary V is there, Matt and Jennifer are there, and then you walk in with your own agenda, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. And just as you were saying, and this is just one small tip, which is post on social, because you mentioned social media, post on social media, show that you're continuing to educate yourself, because that establishes you as a thought leader in your own network back home, or virtually, and again shows that you're out there, looking to do things and learn. And usually, like, photos from events, for whatever reason, they get a lot of engagement, usually on LinkedIn. Another piece, and I think this is an extremely overlooked piece, is this is an incredible time to establish vendor relationships. And I know that might be like, for a lot of MSPs, like, sometimes they don't want to go there, like they don't want to talk. One, obviously, if you're partners with a vendor already, then that should be easy. But a lot of MSPs don't establish that relationship, even with their own vendor. And this is a great opportunity. And I would encourage people to go to the other vendors, even if, okay, maybe you're not ready to buy their product, but still establish a relationship. People in this industry go to, all over the place over the course of their career. And I think it's very overlooked how much relationships matter with the vendors. I often hear MSPs like, oh, this vendor is not going to care. I'm just, a small potato compared to some of their larger clients. And, I can tell you from behind the scenes, relationships are what matter the most. Anytime I got a call from somebody, maybe they needed it to go up the chain or whatever, I never went into our CRM system and said, oh, well, how much revenue do they have?
Right.
But I can tell you it does matter. And I'm sure on the MSP side, for their own clients, it does. You tend to go faster for people, like it just natural. It's a natural human element, right?
100%, because the brand, like the logo, may not care about you, but the person does. The person that you had coffee with, or that you looked at the pictures of their dog or their kid, whatever. Now you do have a relationship with them, even if you don't have a relationship with the brand. So I agree. I feel like relationships and collaboration, and just that the peer type of having a colleague, that is so overlooked. This is not, we're not buying, a $20 widget online, self-checkout. This is people doing business with people. So I love it. Okay, so it's 3 days. It's in New Jersey overlooking New York. See Lady Liberty, sitting at the feet of Lady Liberty. We've got Gary V. We've got thought leadership, brand new content, templates to fill in. How can people get registered for the event?
It's fairly easy. You can go to the websites, buildit-live.net, and I'm sure we can put that in the comments afterwards. I should also mention I do have some special discount codes available. If they email me directly, I can provide them that discount code, or maybe we'll end up posting it in there. But my email address is just matt@channelhalo.com. That's a very easy way to get the special code. We have kind of even a deeper discount if you buy more than one ticket, if you're bringing 2 people to the event. And just one of the last things I'll mention, because we talked about like the keynote speaker, but like seriously, Jennifer, if you look at the list of people that are, it's like I feel like the whole industry is coming to this event.
It's like the best of the channel. I mean,
yeah, it really is.
Amazing.
You got like the Rob Rays, Danny Jenkins, Aiden from Scout, Kyle from Huntress.
Yes.
You got, Adam Slutskin, Gary Pica. It really, the list continues to go on and on. And another keynote that they've got, Jack Daly, who focuses kind of on street sell. He kind of has this concept of street selling. And so, yeah, the list really goes on, and you and I will be there too. So,
yes.
and I can't remember if you mentioned this. I think you said you might do some live streaming or live.
I will probably do some live straight into this group with various speakers and speakers that are there.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to be doing some vlogging, I guess is what they would call it. Some vlogging and some live streaming. So it'd be fun if somehow we can live stream together.
Like, don't cross the stream.
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
that's my face. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Showing my age.
Somehow.
So that's what we're about to say.
Yeah. Somehow it'll be a very meta experience if somehow ours are interacting at the same time.
Yeah, it's like we'll both be on our microphones and then back into each other, like, oh,
yeah,
I found. So,
exactly.
We'll something out for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited about seeing people in person again. And then beyond that, of course, great content, great thought leadership, templates, just going to elevate MSPs at this event. And I love that. That's what so many people are all about. So definitely reach out to Matt if you're interested in attending. I dropped the link in the chat. Matt, if you want to go in and remind people of coupon codes or discounts or anything like that,
sure,
feel free. And then I will see you in just a handful of weeks.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.